On this first episode of Transmissions Alt Mode for the new year, we've got a special episode of Let's Talk Transformers. We're joined by Rod from the Black Guy Who Tips podcast. We talk about why Transformers outlasted so many other 80s franchises, where he ranks the beloved bots compared to other pop culture icons, and hopefully convince him to get into the IDW Transformers comics run. Today is Friday, January 3rd, 2025, and this is episode 423 of Transmissions Alt Mode. Welcome to a special Transmissions podcast. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C. We're doing another episode of Let's Talk Transformers, where we invite a guest on to talk about their history with Transformers and just how they're doing. So today we have a very special guest. Rod is the hardest working man in podcasting. For over 15 years, he and his wife Karen have hosted the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, an amazing and thoughtful combination of comedy, pop culture, politics, and blackness. Since it's become one of my favorite podcasts, I was excited to hear that Rod is also a fan of Transformers. So that gave me the perfect opportunity to just invite him on Transmissions to talk Transformers. So Rod, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I actually feel a little bit underqualified when I saw how deep y'all get into Transformers. Like, it's way deeper than I've ever gotten into it. But I'm always game to talk a little bit of Transformers with anybody.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and we're of course, our podcast has been going on long too. This is our 11th year, so we've had the opportunity to dive into Transformers a lot, but we are very inclusive fans. There's a big community of Transformers fans. Since it's been around so long, for 40 years, young people, old people are into it at different levels. So we're happy to just have anyone who's interested come on. So I saw you're Rodimus Prime on Twitter, where Twitter's become the bad place now, but now you're over on Blue Sky too.
Yeah.
So I mean, just I wanted to, and I know you're around my age, so I know you grew up in the 80s, so you were there for that first wave of Transformers. So I wanted to get into it with you. But before we do that, I actually want you to just tell everyone about your show. People who may not have heard your podcast before, and I thought we were doing good with we're up to about maybe we've done about 1,000 podcast episodes total. You're there, you're over 3,000 over 15 years. You're doing a lot of podcasting. So, and I love it because I'm listening every week. I'm also on premium, so I'm getting all the stuff. So
yeah, I mean, the podcast, we've been doing it forever. I want to say since 2010, I want to say was our first year. So about 14 years.
Okay.
It's a comedy pop culture podcast. It's called the Black Guy Who Tips. I do it with my wife. And we do it from 3 to 5 times a week. And we're just talking current events, pop culture and whatnot. Behind our paywall, we actually have nerd specific podcasts like the Nerd Off. We have sports specific podcasts, Balls D Sports. We have movie reviews, all that stuff. So, we've been doing this for a minute, and it's always great to see like how many connections we have made and have been made with us throughout the diaspora, of podcasting, especially Black folks, man. Love to see Black people with long running podcasts and stuff, because I feel like we don't really get recognized very much, like it's like you can just be out here toiling in the darkness. You're having fun, but it's not as much, it's not as glamorous. So yeah, man, that's basically the gist of our podcast, and how long we've been doing it.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So let's turn the clock back to back in the 80s when we were little youngins running around, easily indoctrinated into stuff. There had been I believe this was when the Republicans came in and did massive deregulation, so that toys could now be commercials for cartoons could now be commercials for toys, and that hooked a lot of us. So
yeah, definitely worked on me.
Yeah. So what was your first introduction into Transformers? Was it the cartoon back in the 80s?
Yeah, it was a cartoon as a kid, cartoon and the toys. Just hadn't really seen anything quite like that at the time. But you know, that was like the golden era of network TV cartoons. You know, like I feel like we're still in a golden era of animation now, but that the time it was so easily accessible. You just a Saturday morning, you turn on one of the 3 or 4 network channels, and it's right there in your face. And then every day you come home from school, you know, like Transformers was like a staple for me. Is you know, and depending on the time of the year and all that stuff, sometimes they have those cartoons on in the morning. You know, so it'd be like, oh, but before school, I gotta get my Transformers in. So I just became a big fan immediately. I think I was primed for it because when I stayed at my grandmama's house, there used to be like weird like anime and Japanese stuff that would come on late at night on like I think it was our local Fox affiliate, but I can't be 100% sure now, but I would stay up for that. You know, so I got into like Ultraman, you know, I got into obviously all the Godzilla variations, Mecha Godzilla, you know, they were just doing all kinds of stuff by that time. But Silverhawks, like there was like a type of animation that like really thrilled me. And I'm like, what is this? We're gonna get more of it. And low key, where could I get some that felt a little bit more like Americanized? Not that it needed to be, but just, you know, everyone wants to kind of see themselves, feel their culture and stuff. And even though Transformers is obviously like Japanese, it's the voice cast what made it Americanized. So all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, Jazz sounds like a brother that could be living up the street from me. What is this, and how do I watch more of it? It wasn't really until I got grown and bought the DVD set that I looked back and was like, oh wait, okay, I don't even know that this was like that deep. But to Rod the kid, that it was the deepest, most Shakespearean thing happening on TV.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all those voice actors were kind of legends. You know, all the cartoons that you look at the resume that Frank Welker has. You know, all the cartoons he's done voices on. Of course, Peter Cullen has you know has they've gotten their flowers after 40 years. You know, for Transformers and lots of other things. But you know, yeah, that cast I think you know was a key component of making the cartoon work. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was the same thing. Like the cartoon was what hooked me. Although, you know, I also got deep into the comics. The comics were the cartoons were what drew me in, but the comics were what you know what kept me there and kept me with it for you know past you know the date where I should have given it up. You know, so.
Yeah, I don't know why I never crossed into the comics, because I was a comic book reader, but I mostly read like Marvel and superhero things, you know. When I got a little older, you know, your Spawn, some of your anti-hero stuff. But I have it's just a huge cultural blind spot in my nerd, you know, lexicon of the comic book stuff. Although video games, obviously the movie, all these other iterations of the cartoon, I followed pretty much all of them. And all of that stuff gets really deep in the weeds. You know, when you're getting to like Beast Wars and stuff, you're in the weeds of Transformers at that point. And for some reason I never made the connection. And I actually am glad I came on here, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, if I'm going to start reading the comic books, where do you suggest I start? You know, because I at this point I don't even there's been so many volumes, the stories have gone on for so long, I don't even know where to pick it up.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, a lot of people will say that their personal high point is the More Than Meets the Eye series, and that came out about like 2011, 2012. And that was written by James Roberts, who is he's our age, so he grew up with Transformers. He was in the UK, and the UK was they had a lot more expanded comic books in on their side of the Atlantic. So he grew up with all that, and then he wrote his own fan fiction novel before getting the job to be the IDW Transformers comics writer. So I believe that really is where I think it elevates Transformers. Both his series More Than Meets the Eye, and then there's a companion series, Robots in Disguise, which is written by John Barber. So those are the two that I would
I'm writing,
suggest.
I'm
And
writing it down right now. I'm gonna get these, man. John Barber, you said?
yes.
All right, I'm gonna get both of those just because I do want to get into it. My man D Palm has been he's been trying to get me to read these comics for years at this point, and I've always just been like, I don't even know where to start. And then also, my other worry is that once I read the comics, if they're too good, it'll just ruin the stuff that I've accepted as good that has been like maybe not too good. Like when I'm watching like the Michael Bay Transformers movies and I'm like, I'm into this, D Palm is like,
Yeah.
I can't even watch that stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't want to get that hardcore. Where you're at is too hard for me. I want to leave to go to the movies and come back and be like, I saw big robots fighting and I want to smile on my face.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good jumping off point. I did want to ask you about what your feelings are on the live action movies. And yeah, there are a range of opinions. Yeah, for me and my friends on the show, we are not big fans of the Michael Bay movies, but of course, we are big fans of what they did for Transformers. I think despite what your opinions is of the quality of the movie,
Yeah.
that brought Transformers into the cultural zeitgeist in a way that it hadn't been since the 80s. So
Yeah,
it really hasn't left.
I generally enjoy those movies, but it is essentially on a scale of like we were getting nothing and now we're getting something. Like I can't,
Yeah.
I could never. I don't think I could ever feel myself defending those movies. I think I might could defend Bumblebee because I actually thought they gave a damn. Just the fact that they started on Cybertron was already like okay, all right, maybe you got with the original G1 Transformers. I was like, okay, y'all actually, this is not Michael Bay, but like this director, you seem to care somewhat, and you kind of get the like a boy in his car thing with Bumblebee in a way that I think Michael Bay is not really capable of doing. I did appreciate that Michael Bay and them spent a lot of money to make a summer blockbuster out of it. Meaning it's more of a summer blockbuster movie than it is a Transformers movie, right? Lots of explosions, bring in comedians for all the dialogue. So you get a lot of jokes. You're either laughing or something's blowing up. And hopefully between laughing and blowing up, your brain doesn't stop to think this doesn't make any damn sense, right? That's really what they're hoping for. And the first one definitely worked on me out of this pure nostalgia, the voice of Optimus Prime, like just like they nailed some of the thing. And then also I just thought the cinematography in the first one was actually really good. Like they really put that Spielberg on it with the like angles and all this stuff. But much like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the problem with every Transformers live action movie for me is going to always be, I just want to see the Transformers. And I understand in live action that's extremely difficult to pull off because we're essentially just leaving a movie up to CGI artists when you want to go that far with live. Where I would want them to go with live action, you basically there's just a green screen and we just create a bunch of stuff and you can't really, there's no reason to bring people in to react to it for the most part because I don't care about the people. I was never watching the cartoons for the people, really. Spike was cool as a stand-in for the kid, for me as a kid, but not. I didn't want episodes centered around. I was like, those are my least favorite episodes. The ones where it's like, oh, Spike is trapped in the Decepticon headquarters. Like, I don't care, bro. Get out of there. So I appreciated the effort and the varying graphical fidelity and CGI problems. Like when it was hitting like it was like, wow, y'all did that. But when it was bad, it was like unforgivably bad. Some of the Transformers fights in those Michael Bay movies, it's just like spinning. It's just like metal spinning and the camera shaking, and you're like, you took no time to really give us anything in this. So once again, like I said, I appreciate those movies because as a person of a certain age, I just remember when they gave 0 Fs. You just watch something like Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, and it is like David Hasselhoff and a $12 budget, and you're like, these people do not care about this. It did feel like, okay, they cared to make a movie that would make a lot of money, but it wasn't really until I like Transformers 1 and I like the Bumblebee movie. And honestly, low key, I kind of liked the latest Transformers movie, but I think that's because it hit my nostalgic sweet spot of like 90s hip hop, like New York centric. You know, Pete Davidson was actually really good in it, which was, I did not see that coming. Shout out to that dude. But like the last 3 projects they've done, I actually would be like, those are good. Like I defend Transformers 1. I have no problem saying that's a good movie. I would defend Bumblebee. Have no problem saying that's a good movie. And I would defend the last Transformers joint, but I would probably have to admit that is my nostalgia of like, yo, they played Tribe Called Quest. Your boy was in, you know what I mean? That's exactly what I was listening to when I was playing with Optimus Prime. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that was Rise of the Beast. Yeah,
Rise of the Beast. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I largely agree with you. I mean, I think the disappointing thing for me is that the last 3 movies were the ones that I thought were the best in terms of quality, but they did the worst at the box office compared to all the other ones.
Dog, like it's like, are we the only people that care about the like Transformer part of Transformers? Because what is this where someone puts in a little bit of effort and all of a sudden it's not doing as well? And I mean, those last couple Michael Bay joints, I mean, I don't think he cared. You know what I mean? Like the first one, I felt like he did, at least he tried to make a good movie. Once you start getting to, I think it was like The Last Night or whatever, like that joint was like, yo, you phoned this in hard. Like, did you even show up on set? It was just really, really bad. So but it is what it is. I also am able to do this thing where if I'm watching a movie and I realize this is not a good movie, sometimes I can just kind of like tap out and go into comedy mode and be like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna be here for the laughs. And in those Transformers movies, one thing Michael Bay always gets is Optimus Prime is essentially a psychopath when it comes to killing people. So like at some point, Optimus Prime is gonna go ham in that third act and just start brutally murdering other robots, and that always brings a smile to my face, regardless. Like I don't even care what it means for the plot. He pulls out an axe and starts like murdering Transformers with one arm. I'm just like, yep, that's what that's the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it's for me for me, I agree with you about like like I came to the Transformers movie for the Transformers. That's always been my complaint of the particular Michael Bay movies, is that the story has always centered around the humans, and I'm like, I didn't come here for the humans. Why is the story always focused on them? So yeah, and finally we got with Transformers 1, I think we finally got a story that's completely on the Transformers. It's on Cybertron. There's no humans anywhere, so it's all about the Transformers.
Part of me wonders if they wasted so much capital with the bad movies that now the movies that are a bit better in quality are suffering because people have been burned so many times. They're like, I don't want to. I saw Dark of the Moon. I saw The Last Night. Like, I don't think you guys care. And then it's like, oh no, the Bumblebee movie is good. And I have friends that I would be like, no, the Bumblebee movie is actually like it's a solid movie. I'm like, you walk out of that joint and you're like, oh, okay. That is that kind of movie. And they're like, I don't know. I can't believe it. And it's like, damn, have they exhausted so much goodwill with these kind of cash grabby movies they've done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I like we were talking about like Deepam, our mutual friend Deepam. I tried to get him to watch the Bumblebee, but I don't know if he still to this day has watched it yet. But I was like, no, it's a really good movie.
He's rigid, man. That dude, he does not budge on when he decides he's done with something. He's done with it. But I've told him multiple times too. I'm like, it is good, and he's like, you think all of them good? I'm like, no, I don't. I think that was a good movie. I said I've watched all the movies, but yes. That does suck. I don't know if he's seen Transformers 1 yet. I need to ask him about that, because I feel like that's what he's been asking for the whole time. And that's honestly, that's what a lot of us have been asking for. We've just settled at Sure, Shia LaBeouf as Sam Witwicky. Sure, if you're gonna throw that in there for an hour of the movie, and the other like 30 minutes of the movie is robots fighting, then I will tolerate Bernie Mac talking to Sam and selling him a car, so that eventually I get Bumblebee, facing down with Starscream. Then sure.
Yeah, actually, so I did. They've resurrected the MTR network movie reviews. So I did hear Deepalm and Rowe do a Transformers One review. So
Okay,
yeah,
beautiful.
he has seen it. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So shout out to them, MTR network. So they're bad. They've spun up a little bit now. So
all it took was a Trump coming back to power. We just all we had to do was let the country go to hell, and then Chris is like, I guess I'll pick up the mic.
Yeah. Unfortunate. I wish we could have got it any other way.
Yeah, same.
But one thing that always, and now as an adult, and looking back at Transformers and realizing, yes, these were all toy commercials. Essentially, these were all meant to indoctrinate kids and hook them on their product. And it worked on me. I'm not denying that, and
right.
But I'm recognizing, of course, that's what happened. But it's interesting that Transformers seems to have staying power that those other franchises just didn't. Like, I mean, I think there are very few of those toy franchises from the 80s that you can say have had iterations over the last 40 years that are still popular. I mean, I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is maybe one other one, but seems like all the other ones have kind of just fallen off. What do you think makes Transformers special and keeps them going?
So there's a couple things there. I think you can't divorce the Transformers cartoon from the quality of the Transformer toy, because a lot of the toys for some of these things were just not as high quality and they weren't as fun. I still remember GoBots. Like, my mom bought me a GoBot from Family Dollar instead of a Transformer one day because it cost less. And on the way home, I transformed Scooter like once or twice and it broke. And I was like, what? Like, it just broke. And it's like so cheaply made. And so those things have an effect on kids. When you're looking at Optimus Prime and it's a die-cast metal toy coming with a trailer and everything, as a kid, you're gonna fill in the gaps on that cartoon. Like, when you watch that cartoon, you're like, I don't care about no plot holes. I don't care if they reset the show every episode starts over like the last episode didn't happen. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care if if the plots are repetitive. I don't care if they reuse the same animation over and over. Doesn't matter to me because I got this cool toy that I'm playing with. And this is my imagination is part of it too. So I think that was a big thing. You cannot knock just the toys and the amount of variation and cast of characters that they were able to have with those toys, because you can enjoy say Thundercats, but Thundercats has about 7 to 10 characters that can be toys and then a bunch of stuff you don't care about. Meanwhile, Transformers can just make like a special episode around a plane that turns into a tank that turns into a big ass robot, and you're like, how do I buy that toy? Like that's the difference to me between all of it. Was this, the toys are so good. There also were a lot of episodes, so that helps. And there were other things that had the staying power, but nothing really fascinates the imagination of a kid, at least to me, like a big ass robot. Like, I love G.I. Joe, but they're all people for the most part, and I enjoyed their, the Cobra jets and planes and versus that stuff was cool. And there's a lot of archetypes in the characters that are fun, like, oh, he's a country guy with a cowboy hat and he flies planes, whatever. That's cool. But it just didn't hit the same as like, yo, I can play with a boombox or a toy gun or a truck or a car and then turn it into a robot, which is also a character in this thing. It's not just like a means of getting from place to place. When you transform this boombox, it becomes Soundwave, and now Soundwave, it has agency within the script. So I think those are the things that really helped. It was just so much more imaginative than almost anything else. And I think the last thing I'll add is, unlike a lot of the cartoons at the time, it didn't really try too hard to be funny. And I think a lot of cartoons tried to be like hilarious to varying degrees. And sometimes it would hurt. To me, it hurts the cartoon, because once you become an adult, I mean, probably too much, but people grasp onto the seriousness of it, right? The gravitas is what stays with people. It's not really the jokes and stuff. So, He-Man's like a good cartoon, but it's also like trying to be funny all the time. And, there's certain characters that are like Snarf and stuff that are in there where you're like, oh, this is just comic relief right now. Transformers used a lot of that stuff sparingly. It was just like a lot of like, this is a very serious, like the stakes of the world are at, humanity is at stake every week. And it just made it, lend itself to something that you would still watch when you're 40, as opposed to, SWAT Cats or something where it's like, I'm done with that. Like, I saw those. I don't need 3 movies. I'm good.
Yeah. And it's also interesting. Like, I feel like the really cynical marketing move they made back in the 80s with Transformers, a movie where they kill off Optimus Prime just because, hey, we're introducing a new toy line. Let's kill off our main character because we're discontinuing his toy. And that's something that, that would never happen in any franchise, then or now. Even back then they were going to do the same thing with G.I. Joe, and they changed their plans when they saw what happened with Transformers.
What was amazing about that is it was clearly a miscalculation on their part, but it is the thing that worked out the best for them. Like, I know grown men, I'm one of them, who like, first time I cried in the theater, Optimus Prime turning that cold gray and realizing he ain't coming back. Like there's no post-credit scenes. Like, Marvel movies weren't out then, guys. Like, that was, the credits started rolling and I'm sobbing like, oh. And it was interesting because it reinvigorated that cartoon at the time, I think, because I started really paying attention to the next season because I'm like, what are they gonna do about Optimus Prime? And the cartoon leaned into it. Like, that was the number one question on the cartoon for a while, was like, what are we gonna do without Optimus Prime? Nobody can really be the leader. Rodimus Prime is not really ready to be the true leader that everyone wants. Ultra Magnus is basically like a cuck in that series. I don't know why they did him that way. Like, that portrayal was just so messed up because he looked like Optimus Prime with a different paint job. I was sure he was gonna be the new leader. But they like played him at every moment that they could. So it's so funny that no one else emulated that. Like, G.I. Joe got scared. I get it. Like, people were pissed about that. But man, if they hadn't done that, maybe we never get movies 20, 30 years later. Maybe they're like, leave that franchise alone. It's dead. Because we saw what they've tried to do with like G.I. Joe, and it just, none of it stuck. None of it's really worked, even on the level of a Michael Bay Transformers. We're going, those Michael Bay movies are not good. I would say the G.I. Joe movies aren't even as good as the Michael Bay Transformers movies. So like, maybe they lucked into something with that bold choice.
Yeah. And I mean, the cartoon, I think like there was a lot of crossover, like the creative people who worked on the movie and then worked on the cartoon, and they were like, because of that backlash, they quickly scrambled. Like, the Return of Optimus Prime episode that they made, that came out, I think, like 6 months or 8 months after the movie came out, because they scrambled to like say, okay, we gotta change direction, and we gotta end the season with end the cartoon season.
The way they wrote it, because Optimus is a beloved character, but the way they wrote it, it was not a passing of the torch to Rodimus Prime in a way that would make people excited about Hot Rod becoming Rodimus Prime. As a person that named my social media as Rodimus Prime, and when I was on message boards, Rodimus Prime was one of my handles. The amount of people that would just hate that character, like, they don't like him. They just they'll even say like he got Optimus Prime killed and all that stuff. Now, if you really watch that movie, I think that's like the harshest interpretation of that scene. I know what the writers intended. Like, the writers intended to be like, Optimus Prime is such a good person that he would sacrifice his own life to save this relative new character to all of us. And then that character would be so inspired by the sacrifice that they would have to step into the leadership position and protect all of existence and save the world from save the universe from Omnicron. I mean from Unicron. Save the universe from Unicron by opening the Matrix. That was supposed to be like a powerful, triumphant moment that when you end that movie, you go, okay, that guy, he got the juice now. And when I say nobody felt that way, nobody seemed to feel that way. And so they had to bring Optimus back because it was looking bad in every sense of the word. I owned a Rodimus Prime, but I'm sure that's because they named that character something close to my name. I'm like, I like Hot Rod too, but it just like, I guarantee you that, if they did the same plot line, but that was Jazz instead of Rodimus Prime or Prowl, I would have been like, man, F Prowl. And I feel like they knew that and they had to go back and fix that and get Optimus back. So yeah, man, that's such a great question though. That mistake though is why I think it still lasts to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and Rodimus Prime, like he mentioned, his whole story arc through that season was not as good as Optimus. I gotta make do, but I'm not as good as Optimus. So.
I could not believe, and like that part was written before they scrambled to get Optimus back. So that was literally their plan coming out of the movie was like, yeah, so the new leader's gonna not be too cool. And I'm like, what, did you think we were gonna go buy those toys? No one want to buy the toys of the not confident leader. We want the toys of the guy that's like, you till all are one, one shall fall. We want that guy that's always speaking like Shakespearean stuff before he goes on a psychopath murderous rage of killing a bunch of robots. And they didn't give us that at all with Rodimus, man. And honestly, like as a fan of that character, Hot Rod was so much cooler. Like Hot Rod as a character was cool because he was brash, he was impulsive, he had the dopest coat, like the paint job on the car he turned into was sweet. Man, they turned this man to a minivan, dog. I'm like, come on. Everything about this decision was a bad decision.
So I'm wondering what toys did you have back in the day, and did you continue collecting toys like past when you got teenage years and older? Were you still picking up toys, or did you stop like after you left childhood?
So I collected toys when I was younger, but I collected is such a it's not, I would not call what I did collecting. I got toys to play with toys. Like I had them till I was way too old in that I was still playing with toys when I was probably like 15, 16, when all my friends were outside playing basketball and trying to mac on girls and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm gonna go home and see if I can get Starscream, the battle the battle Prowl, and just see I'm gonna see what's happening with that tonight. So I would never say I really collected them, and we weren't like rich or spoiled kids, so I never had a complete set of anything. Like I always, back in the day before the internet, those listening to this that remember, we used to have this thing called making friends. And so what my parents would do is be like, we're not getting you all the Predacons because that's crazy. What we're going to do is we're going to get your brother one. We're going to get you one, maybe, and then y'all need to go make some friends that got the other three. And then y'all can make the giant Predacon and fight together. The other thing they would do too is we could get toys from like Goodwill and stuff sometimes too. And you go to like a good thrift store, Goodwill, sometimes people be putting in like, I remember I got a Metroplex out of Goodwill one time. Like you couldn't tell me nothing that summer, dog. Like it was probably missing some pieces, but I did not care. I had like Metroplex, dog. Ain't nobody in my neighborhood have Metroplex. So yeah, I did have the toys, and it was always a good experience, always fun for me. And just like I said, Transformers were well-made toys, which is just, you cannot divorce that from this conversation because the amount of other toys I got that was just like you turn the GI Joe the wrong way, the band snaps in the middle. Now you're trying to combine like your Duke with your, with your snake eyes, and the legs don't match the toy. Like it was not as good, but Transformers had good quality stuff. And then I never collected once I got too old. I like actually now I have a couple who are in boxes in there that I haven't opened. Like I have a Hot Rod, I believe in there. I think I have an Optimus Prime in there somewhere. I may have actually taken that one out and transformed it a couple of times. But yeah, I like once I got old enough, I think what replaced collecting toys was playing like video games and stuff. So I played the video games. War for Cybertron is still one of my favorite video games of all time. So I'll play like some of the Transformers video games, and if they're good, that replaces like playing with toys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's funny. I'm one of my co-hosts, Daryl, he's actually Canadian, and he goes to Value Village. That's a like a Canadian thrift store they have, and he finds crazy stuff there, like and for cheap too. So yeah, thrift stores, garage sales, that's still lots of stuff. I think my friend Jeremy found like just a huge tub of Transformers that someone was just selling, and they were like, take it off my hands, I'll pay me $20 and take it all and I'll ship it to you or whatever. And he got a bunch of classic G1 figures, and he's been going through. So yeah, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So
absolutely. I'm 100%. I got my favorite Transformers for the most part were secondhand. Like,
yeah,
because it was a big deal to get like Jetfire, because like nobody had them in my neighborhood. But if you bought them new, like my parents weren't about to spend no new Jetfire money. Like that's crazy. But if you find them for $1.50 in a Goodwill bin or something, it's like, well, yeah, you can get that, splurge. So yeah, shout out to those secondhand stores.
Yeah. And so I don't know if if you've seen just recently, the Transformers brand has now been doing mashups with other brands now. So all the things that like back in the 80s, we all think, hey, the A-Team van, wouldn't that be a cool Transformers? Wouldn't Knight Rider be a cool Transformer? Wouldn't the Back to the Future DeLorean be a cool Transformer? Now they're all making them.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know.
So yeah, so I mean, actually, I have a couple here. I just wanted to, so this is Knight Rider.
That's Kid.
He's Agent Knight. Yep.
Wow, that's dope.
It has lights and sounds.
Oh, yo, that's dope.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't believe they're doing this. Like I've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the party wagon. Yeah.
Oh, that's dope, man. And it looked like a Ninja Turtle too.
Yeah, and it has you can change the head to it comes with all four colors of the different turtles. So you can be whichever turtle you want to be.
Yo, that's pretty tight, man.
Yeah.
And I know for the movie they're thinking about doing G.I. Joe and Transformers in the future. Which is something that it just feels like should have happened a long time ago. I'm sure it's some type of IP. So there's got to be something more to it than I'm thinking, because that felt like that's what Michael Bay was trying to make the whole time. Like with all them army people in the movies, clearly you were trying to do something with those characters. It's not like I ever gave a damn about Tyrese, but if you said he was Roadblock, I might have cared, but to me, I never remember that dude's name. He's still Tyrese to me in that movie.
Yeah, well, Hasbro owns both Transformers and G.I. Joe, so I don't know why they didn't take advantage of that. But I'm
gonna blame The Rock. I don't know how, but somehow it's probably The Rock's ego.
Yeah, that's not a bad theory.
He's like in the script, like I'll be in it, but I have to be able to beat up Optimus Prime. And they're like, just forget it.
So I'm just curious in terms of your personal nostalgia or fan ranking or whatever. Where would you rank Transformers, like in your personal fandom? I know you said you're big into Marvel comics, other Star Wars. I don't know if you're into Star Trek too or what. So where would Transformers fall in your?
it's up there with Star Wars and it's up there with Star Wars and Marvel. Probably like one notch below those two, but only because I never got into the comics. I feel like if I got into the comics, it would probably be up there. But it is that catch-22 of like not getting into the comics probably saved me a lot of heartache watching those Michael Bay films. Because I just like there's nothing worse than knowing what the story could have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like I only got to enjoy the high parts of Transformers and not really be too mad about the low part. So you know, like I got to enjoy it. When I played War for Cybertron, I was like, oh my God, this could be a movie. This is the movie right here. But I never was like resentful of the other movies because I had already watched them at that time. So yeah, I probably put it around Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles area. And I actually had to put it slightly above them because I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles they still haven't given me the movie I want out of them yet. Even though the last TMNT movie was really good, the animated joint with Ice Cube, it was real good. But I grew up reading the Eastman and Laird, like the black and white like TMNT, the one where they was like killing people. And you didn't even know like what color their mask was because everything was black and white. And you had to tell from the dialogue and the way they talked, and they did it so well. I didn't need to see the colors. Like I'm like, oh, that's Donatello. Okay, Leonardo just did that. And it was very gritty and dark. So if they were to make a movie like that, I think I might actually put it on the level of Transformers. So I'll say somewhere between I'll say Transformers is third of everything we named. And then a lot of stuff is below it. Like G.I. Joe's below it because they blew those movies. Those are terrible. Thundercats is below it because they just cannot get anything Thundercats to work since the original Thundercats. I don't know why. It just don't hit the same. I don't know. And then there's just a bunch of nostalgic stuff I love, but I just don't think there was never a future for it. Like I remember I love Brave Star. No one's making Brave Star. If anything, it's probably offensive at this point, right? Johnny Quest, you can't make a live action Johnny Quest. That's another thing that's people just don't understand how offensive that is. And I know they're trying, but that is a reason that thing's been in like 6 years of purgatory before they can get that damn script together. Because it's a lot of sizzle you got to go in there and try to unbake out of that cake for Johnny Quest. And I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm as good a writer as anybody, but if you put that in front of me, I don't know that I can come up with something that'll capture the soul of Johnny Quest and none of the racism, you know? So yeah, I have fond memories of Transformers. I put it 3.
Okay. Yeah. Also, one thing that always gets me about Transformers is it's just because I have been so deep in the comics and everything, it's my number one, just because I've been with it for the last 40 years. But one thing that strikes me about Transformers is that it does not have a lot of people will complain in Star Wars about the canon, you losing the like when they switched over to the from the expanded universe and dropped all the novels and people were upset because they changed the canon and everything. Transformers doesn't have that. Like Transformers from the beginning has always been, it's a multiverse, it's everything. Every story is whatever it wants to be. There's never any agreement or continuity between stories. Within a self-contained universe or show or whatever, that's fine. But you get outside of that, it's completely different. It doesn't matter, and people are accepting that. I think that's maybe another strength that it's had, that it's been able to continue to reinvent itself. But I also think that's because it's primarily a toy first franchise. It's like the story is always secondary to the toys, which is, I think that's different from something like Marvel or Star Wars, where they started off as storytelling properties. The toys were ancillary to make money, but it's always like for Star Wars, the movies, the main thing. For Marvel, the comics are the main thing. Now the MCU is the main thing, and for certain people. But for Transformers, the toys are always the main thing, and movies, TV shows, comics are always secondary. I think that that's a strength for making it like accessible and able to reinvent itself. But I do think it's a weakness in that you know, a lot of times the stories will be sacrificed in the name of the toys. For, you know, if you're if you have a really strong story, you know, you can do things. You're you know, you're telling something an interesting, taking a character on an interesting arc, but then yeah, that character's toy gets discontinued or de-emphasized, and you got to shift to something else
Yeah,
because
and
that's not.
the stories I think for a lot of people don't stick to the ribs because they don't all have iconic moments. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
um in the retelling of, like, you know, like when Marvel does whatever, it's retelling whatever, like, you know, Uncle Ben's getting shot somewhere, like um uh you know, Batman's parents are getting killed in Crime Alley, and Transformers doesn't really have that, but it's a strength and a weakness at the same time, in that because it doesn't have those moments, you're open to letting them tell any story they want to tell. Like,
Right.
I mean, that last Rise of the Beast joint, I mean, you're talking time travel, interdimensional, like like it was a lot going on in that joint. And I was impressed because they didn't really try to dumb it down. They didn't really take a lot of time to like try to explain the whole thing. It was like, pay attention. We're not gonna like leave you completely in the dark. But this is not like those Transformers movies you've been watching. Like this is not like last night. This is like we're gonna trust the audience. And the Netflix series, War for Cybertron,
Yeah.
they did. Oh my god! Like they hit the ground running, and by the time you get to the end, it's like they're singing past versions of themselves and communicating with the future version of them, and that's like, oh, don't do that, man. It's gonna mess everything up. And I'm like, they did not stop to really explain how everything single thing works. And in those ways, Transformers to me became as good as Star Wars when it came to like when Star Wars started doing the animated stuff on Cartoon Network and Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
It hit that same level for me where I'm like, oh, you're able to do more in the series than you're even able to do in the movies, and you're not pulling your punches, like you're going for it. So yeah, you're right though, that it is funny not having to be attached to canon is actually what makes Transformers so dope.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, you know, I would just like them to, like whoever is in charge of Transformers, to let the stories cook a little bit more before they before they say, oh, we got to go to the next toy line.
Yeah,
But actually, that's one of the things I do like about the comics. So another plug for the comics is that the comics are typically the like the, you know, they're the redheaded stepchild of the Transformers media, so they're usually left on their own to do whatever they want. So they get a little bit longer, you know, runway to tell their stories before, you know. But then if they get really popular, then eventually it says, oh, Hasbro's like, oh, they're looking at the
yeah.
comics again. So why don't you throw these toys in here real quick?
Yeah, I feel like what Hasbro does now is they just start a new Transformer series instead of adjusting the current one. Like, but
Yeah.
now they're just like Transformers Rescue Bots. They're like, oh, some new toys coming out. Okay, I see what this is. And y'all gonna shut down the other one, right? Okay, all right. So yeah, it's kind of, but in a weird way, it's giving everyone a different entry point into it.
Yeah.
And their stuff somehow their stuff still works. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone else has tried what Transformers has tried. It just ain't work. Like, it's not for, no one had too much integrity to reboot Thundercats. They did it. It just no one wanted to watch it. But Transformers they've rebooted it many times for different generations of kids, and it seems to stick in different ways with different kids, including my 40-something-year-old self.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder though, I mean, even like, and this is not just on Transformers itself, but I think like it feels like, at least now with the rise of smartphones and of course video games and everything, and constantly having screens everywhere, that kids are just like not playing with toys like they used to, just in
Right.
general. Like,
Yeah.
and I wonder if Transformers can survive, you know, when kids just, you know, I mean, kids are always going to play with toys to a certain age, but if they're getting smartphones younger and younger, I think it's going to be a lot fewer kids playing with a lot fewer toys.
I think the way they survive is Optimus Prime in Fortnite. You know, it's gonna be stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, it's gonna be Transformers Roblox or something. Like they're gonna find where the kids are and they're gonna put big ass robots with guns in it. And kids are never gonna be they're never gonna outgrow that, I don't think. But they'll have to stay sharp and be looking at the future all the time because you're right. Like if you're just making physical toys, you're behind the 8 ball at this point. You know, toy stores are closing and people aren't playing with toys as much. They're, you know, kids don't even really necessarily go outside and play with friends like we did, you know? So you're going to have to find the digital mediums where you can still bring forward that, like, oh, look, there's a new Transformer video game. I'll be Bumblebee and I'll call my friend and he can be Hot Rod and we'll hop in here and shoot some stuff. You're gonna have to go that way because you're right. Thinking kids are just gonna meet up at Toys R Us that's not happening.
Yeah. Shout out to Toys R Us. Pour one out for Toys R Us.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, also, I mean, I don't know how if you've seen the recent Transformers show, was Transformers Earthspark. That was it's on Paramount Plus. It's the latest version. Yeah, and what's interesting about that is that it's the human family is half African American, half Filipino.
Oh,
and
okay.
And they like this. The way it starts is that the kids, it's a boy and a girl, or brother and sister. They discover a Transformers artifact, and then the artifact like creates Transformer robots, like that are like a combination of Cybertronian and human. So they look like robots, but they're not Autobots or Decepticons. They call them Terrans because they were born on Earth, and then they have a bunch of adventures, and they work with the Autobots and Decepticons are still in there, but it's a really interesting show. And it was interesting, just of course, I mean, that's one thing that I've seen with Transformers, that it also lends itself to representation in ways that maybe other mediums don't. I mean, I think also it's a similar thing to like what happened with the X-Men, where the X-Men can tell a story about racism without saying it's racism.
Right.
With Transformers, you can have like different characters and different themes that, you know, that don't call out all the isms, but are clearly, you know, modeled on that. And I think that's more a thing in the comics, but in the recent show, they have one character who is non-binary, and they say like their pronouns are they them, and that's a thing that's called out when they're created and they are introduced as that character, and then it's not really you know focused on for the rest of the show. But this is in a kids show, and I haven't really. One thing I'm happy about is I haven't really seen any like controversy or anything about it. It's like kind of flown under the radar for anyone who's who would get upset about
that's
it.
interesting too, because you know the kind of toxic people that love to make a stink would have glommed onto that if they thought they could like really get an inroads with that. Maybe it's not popular enough for them or whatever, or maybe we just haven't seen them in our algorithm, which is fine for me. But yeah, I didn't know that show was out there, so I have Paramount Plus, so I'm gonna go ahead and add it and check it out for sure, because I try to keep up on all the Transformer stuff. All the stuff that I feel like is like, if they make some like Rescue Bots was like so for kids that I was like, I'm okay skipping this one. You know what I mean? But like if it's anything from like, you know, 10 and up or whatever, I'm in. So I'll check it out. But yeah, and you're right with representation. What I thought was so funny about the live action movies is like how much Michael Bay did not understand that part. Like representation, all that stuff, it means nothing to him. Like everything's a punchline that's not a white man. And I know it's because I'm not even saying he's like a jerk or a racist. I really think in his mind, he's like, you have serious Transformer stuff, and then everything else should be a joke. Like to get from point A to point B, comedy. You know, that's why you look around at those casts and it's just everyone's playing like a comedic role. You know, John Turturro is playing a comedic role. Bernie Mac's playing a comedic role. Kim Jong, I think his name's Kim Jong, but Ken. The dude from
Ken Jeong,
Community,
yeah,
Ken Jeong,
yeah,
yeah.
Ken Jeong, yeah,
Tim is a different dude. But yeah, so Ken Jeong, the cool one. But like he just staffs everything with these comedians and his comedic take on everything. And because of that, unfortunately, even when he has a level of diversity in his movies, it's played for a joke. It's never played like with inclusion in mind. So like I still remember Transformers 2 when he had Skids and Mudflap and they're talking in basically like Ebonics or AAVE. So clearly they're signaling they're the black robots, but they're like jesters, right? They're short, they can't really fight, and they're just leaving. And they say they can't read. They're having running commentary and everything. And I'll never forget when one of them was like, "We ain't no reading bots," and I was like, "No, see, Michael, you didn't even. If you're gonna put black people in your movie, then maybe just don't even put them in your movie. You know, if that's the case, then diversity. I don't want no equity and inclusion in this one. You just tell your white man story, and we just gonna move on to the next movie. But yeah, I'm glad that the cartoons never followed suit. The other thing that was always funny about Michael Bay movies and in general, when he started branching outside of the G1, like 4 or 5 Transformers from the first movie, and they started having the international Transformers, it always bothered me that the Japanese robot spoke a Japanese English accent as opposed to just Japanese. You know what I mean? I don't know why that bothered me so bad. It really shouldn't. But like everyone else, you know, like it doesn't bother me how Grimlock talks like a caveman. That's fine. Didn't bother me that you know, the last night some of them had like British accents or whatever. None of that bothers me. But the Japanese ones should just be speaking Japanese. Like, I don't know why he's like gotta talk like a, you know, like like David Carradine from Kung Fu. It's like, stop doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think was it the last night maybe that had Hot Rod and he had a French accent?
Bruh,
like,
what was that?
okay.
What Michael Bay making some weird ass choices, man. Like just and like why not just have him speak French? I mean, that was, you got subtitles right there. I don't know why it's got oui. Like, we don't need that, bro. Just you're doing too much. I also would have accepted a straight up American accent for the record. Like, like it wouldn't have bothered me if the samurai wouldn't also talk like a regular ass white man, like the rest of them did. But boy, what a time, Michael Bay. What a time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone who works on Transformers, I think there's still another level they could get. Like, you know, Transformers, they're robots. They're based on computers. They have all these, you know, sophisticated technology. Uh, Bumblebee could have figured out how to speak without using the radio. He could generate his own voice. It's
what
not
was that decision? What was, like, I know he thought he got one off when he made that decision, because I feel like Michael Bay said he shouldn't talk. He'll communicate with radio waves or whatever. It's like, but why? But we like that he talked. Actually, he was one of the cool voices because they had that modulation on it, and he had one of the cooler voices in the cartoon, that Bumblebee voice. And the first thing you anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to harp on those shitty movies.
No offense to all the people who love the Michael Bay movies. You know, it's
and I love for the record, I love them too, guys. But I just love them for what they are. I will never be able to defend them as good movies. I won't lie to y'all. Okay, I have to be honest. They're bad movies that I enjoy, and that's okay. I enjoy a lot of movies that technically are bad movies. You know, I grew up on the Last Dragon, might be my favorite movie of all time. I can't defend that as high cinema, okay? But I can tell you I memorized every single word of that script.
No, yeah, I mean, and low key, I mean, you know, this. I hope I'm not turning in my Transformers car, but even the '86 movie is not the height of cinema. I mean, it's something we all love. It's, you know, it's my favorite Transformers movie. You know, it always will be. But it's not a perfect movie. It's, you know, most people think
there's like 10 or 15 minutes in Transformers, the animated movie, where you can go get some popcorn, use the bathroom, and come back. I love that movie, for the record. But when they start like the dancing and they get to the motorcycle Junkticon ass plan, like they could have left all of that out. Even the stuff with the like shark, the piranha robots.
Shark the
Like,
cons, yeah.
bro, it's not, it was just like, okay, let's get back to the stakes, guys. Remember, Unicron, Galvatron, Hot Rod becoming Rodimus. This is why we came here. I feel like y'all are putting these motorcycles in here to sell motorcycle toys. You're putting Sharkticons to sell Sharkticon toys. I know what you're doing at this point. Like, you killed everybody's favorite Transformers 5 minutes into the damn movie, so we will go buy some more robots. So I'm gonna need y'all to go ahead and concentrate on these new characters. But yeah, it was. You're right. It's not a perfect movie at all.
Yeah. But and they were the first, or not the first, but the early movie that did stunt casting. Like, the beginning of the movie, they show like we got all these A-list celebrities playing the voices. You don't even see Peter Cullen and Frank Welker in the main cast at the beginning of the movie. You see, you see Robert Stack, you see Leonard Nimoy, and it's like, why, who are you trying to impress with these voice actors? Because the kids don't care. The kids don't care.
They had the money. That might be another reason it works so well. Because they must have just had the money to spend. Because I want to say, like, isn't like Orson Welles or somebody the Unicron?
Yeah, he's Unicron.
Like that's such an iconic voice. But what are you doing in this movie? You know, like what happened?
Yeah.
Low key, that's what I like about Transformers 1. That felt like a throwback too, because I feel like they went and got some pretty good actors to be in this movie. Brian Tyree Henry being in this movie is a big deal to me as Megatron. I'm like, they could have easily just went with just about anybody, and they were like, nah, let's go get a guy who has some star power, and let's get Chris Hemsworth in here, and they made it their own. They weren't doing impressions of previous voice actors, which is really important. So maybe that's that would probably be my second favorite Transformers movie of all time, and that might be wise because it reminds me of the first of the stunt casting.
Yeah, I mean, I was really I was impressed with Brian Tyree Henry and how much range he had to have in that movie, going from D16, the kind of likable, easygoing D16, to the harbinger of death, Megatron. It was that was an emotional journey that he went on throughout that movie, and really, I think he hit it out the park, and getting the tone of that character right at each step in that journey. So
and speaking of inclusion and stuff like that, like the way they told that story made that story bigger than the previous movies, the live action movies had done. They never really gave us a reason why Megatron's like evil. He just shows up, he's evil. Like, Megatron, guys, he's a bad person. I like this version of taking him from that. I mean, the only version of Megatron I've really liked better is the version that went from like Gladiator to Revolutionary Leader, in some of the TV shows and stuff that I saw, where it's like, now that's a story, like, because the tragedy of Optimus and Megatron, it just doesn't get enough in the Michael Bay movies and even the other live action movies. It just doesn't get enough of like, you're supposed to feel like you're watching two friends that just can't come to, they cannot reach a consensus. And now it's sad that they got to kill each other. Like it shouldn't be hype that they gonna kill each other. It should be like, damn, bro, it's got this bad, y'all can't work it out. And Transformers 1 captured that in a way that nothing else really has.
Yeah. So now I gotta plug the comics again, because the IDW comics do go through that journey, and they get to a point where they get past the war too. So they show like the start off as Megatron going from a miner to a gladiator to the leader of the Decepticons. They also show the end of the war and how like the Decepticons and the Autobots do get to peace, and there is a like several years of the IDW comics are post-war Cybertron, where like the Autobots and Decepticons are coexisting. There are still, you know, conflict and stories and villains and everything, but there is no longer an overarching war. Megatron actually surrenders and like gets a little bit of a redemption arc. Like I don't know how much of a redemption arc you can get when you've murdered like billions and billions and billions of people throughout the universe.
Right.
But he does get like a kind of a redemption arc. So I'll just I'll point you to those More Than Meets the Eye comics again for that. So yeah, so check those out if you want to see a complete story arc for both Megatron and Optimus and how they get through that journey.
I will.
Well, all right. Well, I think that's a good place to end the discussion here. Thank you, Rod, for hanging out and talking Transformers. When we do interviews like this, we like to end with a rapid fire set of questions. So I got a few questions here, and we'll just go through them real quick. They're like very easy, either or questions. I'll give you a set of choices, but if you don't like the choices I give you, you can throw out your own. So it's it's up to you how you want to answer it. So let me pull that up, and we can get right into it.
Let's go.
All right. First question: Autobot or Decepticon, or Maximal, Predacon, Terracon, whatever.
Autobots, man. I'm old school, dog. They ain't do nothing wrong. They was trying to figure it out.
Who is your favorite Autobot?
Favorite Autobot, honestly, man, is Rodimus Prime. Well, it's Hot Rod, not Rodimus Prime. Hot Rod before he became Rodimus Prime was pretty dope.
I agree. I had the Hot Rod toy as well as a kid. It was one of my favorite toys. Yeah.
Yeah, and he brought that good energy. They needed that. You know how like Cosby had to bring in like a child, Raven Simone. He brought that energy to where it was like, hey, I'm gonna keep watching this. You know, I was just about to grow out of it, but it's like, no, I like this kid. I like to cut his jib.
Yeah. All right, Transformers movie. So excluding the '86 movie, your favorite Transformers movie? What live action movie? Bumblebee, Rise of the Beasts, or Transformers One? I think you already said.
It's gotta be one. It's gotta be one. Out of those, it's one. So no offense to high offense to the Michael Bay movies, but no offense to Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. I actually thought they gave a damn.
All right. You haven't read the Transformers comics, so I'll skip that question. Okay. But also, I don't know if you've gotten into third-party toys. So would you say yes or no to third-party Transformers toys, not made by Hasbro?
So I don't know if I don't. Give me an example of a third-party toy. Is it like that, what you showed me earlier, or is it something else?
No, so these are actually toys that are made by other companies. So there's like a huge market of like companies. I think there are a lot of them based in Asia that just make their own takes on Transformers characters, and they just will design their own toys. And like they are able to do, since they don't have to like follow regulations for kids toys, they can make them as complicated as they want. They can charge as much as they want for them. So you get like really intricate designs of known Transformers characters, but they're made by other companies. And since they don't use the Hasbro trademarks or the names or the symbols or anything, they can still sell them. So it's kind of it's a huge.
I'm gonna say no, but the reason I'm gonna say no is mostly because I feel like when I was a kid, the idea of a bootleg toy was disturbing. Like it was like I didn't want to bring it to school because it meant that your stuff was off brand. Now, even with these being more expensive and better possible quality, I still feel like I couldn't. The old school ride, I can't slide that past myself. I'm like, nah, that's not no real Transformer, dog. They didn't put the name on the box. I need to know that this is Jetfire. I need to know that and I feel like if you just all you did was rip it off, and now made me pay more for it. So nah.
All right, fair enough. And a lot of Transformers fans feel that way. So some people like them and some people don't. And there's lots of like I go to Transformers conventions during the year, and they sell a lot of them there. In
Let me
addition
ask
to
you this:
just the regular ones.
the one have you seen the ones? My man Chris Lambert, he's a big Transformers guy too, big toy guy, and he always sends me these like Instagram reels and stuff. Have you seen the one? Well, I'm sure you've seen it, but are they third party or real? The ones where it's like the super expensive, like transforming Megatron and it can talk. Like I don't know if you've seen like Optimus Prime can talk.
Yeah,
can make a walk. Are those third party or are those like official like Hasbro things? You know.
So they are official, but they are made by a third party. They're made by Robosen, a robotics company, but they license the Transformers brand from Hasbro to make them. So they're officially sold by Hasbro, and you can buy them from Hasbro's website. So yeah, they have a Transforming Optimus, they have a Transforming Megatron. They're probably gonna they'll probably make a few more because those were successful. But they have a Grimlock too. So there's a T-Rex robot
now,
as well.
Those I'm with. I like those.
Yeah. No, those are great. I mean, those are super expensive, so right. I don't have one myself, but those are
me neither.
Those are great.
But I when I saw it, like I looked at my bank account for a second. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like, do I? No, Rod. That doesn't make sense. You're gonna transform it 3 times and then it's gonna sit on the counter.
Yeah, you don't even transform it. You tell it to transform, right? It does it itself.
You gonna hit that button 3 times, and then the nostalgia's gonna wear off, and now you just gonna have a giant paperweight in your house that you it's only impressive to company once a year.
Yeah, but yeah, those are amazing, and I think they'll probably be making more of those. But yeah, those are impressive. But yeah, way outside my price range. All right, moving on. We got more questions. Moving away from Transformers, cats or dogs?
I go with dogs. I'm not really a pet person, but I'll go with dogs just because I feel like cats don't really need you to like them anyway.
Yeah,
like, even the people that love cats will tell you like it's not really about me. The cat does what it wants to do.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right. Chicken or steak?
Chicken. I'm going to go with chicken. I know that's racist, but it's the truth.
Let me guess. The chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Fried chicken. Oh, you didn't say what kind. I'm sorry.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke. I don't know why, but I'm almost offensively pro Coke. Like I don't even know why that brand new. I guess that's like Transformers. I don't know how the branding worked on me, but the way my face looks at waiters when I'm like, do y'all have Coke? And they're like, yeah, we got Pepsi, and I'm like, that's not the same. Why did you just? I want to leave this place.
Yeah. Burger King or McDonald's?
Oh, McDonald's. Even with the Listeria outbreak, you got to go McDonald's over Burger King. No offense to Burger King, but they know what they did. They can't get the fries right, number one. And I know they gotten better over the years, but they had some too many down spots, not consistent enough. And then they also tried to experiment with some stuff that just y'all just make a Whopper. Like, I don't know why y'all keep trying to remix this thing. The chicken fries and all that stuff, it don't be hitting enough for me. So I got to go with McDonald's because consistently you know what you're getting.
Yeah. History or science?
Damn, that's, you know what? It's history. It's got to, because I'd love to say it's science, but that's not true. I read about history a lot, especially history involving America and how it's treated Black people, because I'm never going to forget. And hopefully that way I can never be surprised. I'm like, oh, y'all did this before. Oh, we taking books out of school. Let me see, where have I heard that? Oh, page 37,
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch?
I'm an Xbox person. I know that's very rare, We're getting rarer and rarer out here every day. But I own all of them and I play all of them. But Xbox is probably my console of choice at this point.
All right. PC or Mac?
PC, but it's only because I've never owned a Mac. I don't have the money. Like I didn't have the money like that at the time. My parents didn't buy them. And I remember when I got when I wrote for Game Theory in New York, I brought a laptop. Everybody else on the staff had Macs. And I was just like, okay, so I'm the broke one. Thanks. Thanks for letting me know. They're like, you can go get a Mac. It's just $1,700. I'm like, I'll stick with the PC.
That's definitely fair enough. All right, but I do know because I listened to your show, I know what you choose for iPhone versus Android.
Yeah, it's absolutely like every once in a while I fantasize about buying a Mac or a MacBook Pro or something. Just because I heard the ecosystem between your phone and that, laptop / computer thing, I heard that it makes everything so much better. But
yeah,
I look at that price and every time I'm like, I don't think I could do it. They out here just giving these damn PCs away. You know what I mean? They just giving the HPs away. They're like, buy one, get one free. The Mac, I know the Mac is good because they won't give it away. It's like an iPhone where they're like, it's never going on sale. You just gonna have to co-sign your soul to get this joint.
So is there on your iPhone, is there an app that you can't live without?
App I can't. Oh, I'm sure there's a bunch. Matter of fact, let me look at this thing because I feel like I go to different apps all the time. You know what? My new one is gonna be, now this is a new app, but I'm already gonna say I can't live without it. Chef IQ, which is replacing Yumly, which was my Bluetooth thermometer app that I use when I would cook certain foods and stuff. And it just made the food so much better knowing that I feel like I must have some form of I know what I have anxiety. But the anxiety I get from like cooking a chicken breast and the recipe is like, put it in the oven at 375 for 45 to 60 minutes. My anxiety, I can't do it. Like I'll be ready to take it out at 35, put the thermometer in and check it and take it back out, see if it's 165 yet, because I don't want no dry ass chicken breast. That thermometer has done my anxiety so much wonders because my app just lets me know like, hey, 5 minutes, time to take the chicken out. Hey, let the chicken rest 5 minutes, and it's perfect every time. So I'm gonna go with Chef IQ for my new Chef IQ thermometer I just got.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Yeah, I am not a cook at all, so I appreciate that. I appreciate your expertise in the kitchen and everything. So that's cool.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's kind of like science. Once you look at it kind of like that, at least it changed my view of cooking and stuff. I also, honestly, and I have the time to do it. And once you get in the habit, it's really good for being self-reliant, self-sufficient, but I also cook for Karen around here and whenever there's like a get together, I don't mind making a dish and seeing if everybody's going to like it. So, but once you look at it like science, to me, it just opens the whole world up where you're like, like I found out this year how to velvet a chicken. I had never velveted a chicken before. I didn't even know what the hell that meant. I would have thought that meant you put some type of fabric on it, but it's a way of softening your cheaper cuts of chicken so that it tastes almost like the chicken that you buy, like when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you're like, man, this chicken breast tastes different than mine at home. Like this is falling off the bone compared to what I got at the crib. I figured out how to make that. And it's just some science. It's just like some baking powder and some other stuff. It's like, oh, that's all this was the whole time. I'm not scared of the kitchen no more.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I'll get inspired to try and follow in your footsteps a little bit.
Yeah. Hit up YouTube University, man. They got a lot of good tips over there.
Yeah. All right. Next question: Marvel or DC?
Marvel. Not close. That's not just because of the movies. That's not just because of the movies. The comic books, they catching up. Like I'm deep right now in Batman. I'm reading I'm almost all caught up with Batman. Like, it's not that I hate DC, but Marvel was really killing it in the like talking about oppression and representation when I was a kid. And so I will forever be a Marvel person because they weren't intimidated and they weren't waiting for it to be cool. Like, they were like, yeah, we know people are mad about, civil rights. We're going to turn two of our biggest characters into icons for civil rights. It's going to be an allegory for mutants. But any black kid reading this, any Jewish kid reading this, they're going to see themselves in this. And I just don't think DC ever really nailed that when I was a kid. And then, of course, when some of the efforts that they tried were just so like paltry, it's like Black Vulcan, Black Lightning, Black. I'm like, okay, guys, calm down, calm down. Tell a black story. You don't got to do all this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, who is your favorite Marvel character?
Oh man, that's like damn near impossible. There's so many that I love. Jesus. Man, I you know what? I'm gonna go off the path and go with somebody that I bet nobody else has ever picked. I'm gonna go with Cyclops. Especially Cyclops after Professor X got killed. When he just decided, man, F it. Like, forget these humans. We on some other stuff now. We do for hours. That version of Cyclops, I feel like everyone just thinks of Cyclops, the old X-Men cartoon Cyclops from the 90s. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't mind him either, but I got why he could be annoying to kids, right? He's like the teacher's pet adult of the team, right? He got to answer. He got to be a leader. He can't just do what Logan and them be doing and Gambit and just doing shit just for no reason. But the comic book version of Cyclops, when he got militant, bro, that's my guy to this day.
All right. Yeah, a lot of people go Spider-Man. It's a lot of people just pick Spider-Man or Iron
You
Man,
got
Captain
Spider-Man,
America.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
There's certain, and you know who they are because they put them in everybody else's comic books all the damn time. So they're the most popular ones, but those ain't mine.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Stallone or Schwarzenegger?
You know what? Give me Arnold.
All right. All right.
I feel like Arnold did a lot for the impossible white man genre. And I think Stallone still sees himself and wants to be like a very serious thespian actor. And Arnold was like, nah, I'll be Conan. I'll say the corny one-liner. I'll be Mr. Freeze. Like, Arnold that gave me more seminal moments in my life than Sylvester Stallone. I feel like, especially if you take out Rocky, I feel like Sylvester ain't really got as many iconic roles as Arnold got.
Yeah. All right. Pixar or DreamWorks?
Pixar. Even with the like fall off of the last few years, I still I see that Pixar logo pop up. I lean forward in my chair because I'm like, what they finna do? And DreamWorks is been dropping some gems lately, but it's gonna be a while for they catch up to Pixar for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a guilty pleasure movie that you'll always watch whenever it's, I would say it's on cable or on TV, but I guess no one's doing that anymore.
Right, yeah.
We're all streaming.
I mean, there's so many for me. Avengers 1 is definitely one. And the reason I say that is because every time I watch or record anything on FX, it's like Avengers is playing. Same thing when you go to watch basketball on TNT. It's like, for some reason, Avengers is always playing. Black Panther is always playing if it's, an NBA game. But so like a lot of the Marvel movies are like that. But for my just personal, like kind of off the beaten path, I'll always watch Half Baked and I'll always watch The Last Dragon 100% of the time. I like they don't miss at all. And just as a throwback, but this one I don't even know where I would see it on TV streaming, is I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which is another one of those movies for me where I know the whole thing,
Yep. So much for one rib.
Yeah. I wasn't screaming for help. I was like, no, you were screaming. You said, hell, get in the me. No, I was saying help. Get your you take the elevator and take this. No, it's like you gonna take the window, take the stairs, and that final joke, like, oh, he know about the elevator. So good.
Yeah, that was what I remember that because that was a throwback to those 70s blaxploitation movies.
Yep.
And I had no knowledge of those when I was a kid watching that movie. I just thought it was funny.
Right.
And then realizing later, how much of a throwback and a parody and homage it was to those movies.
It's so funny because it worked backwards for me too. I watched I'm Gonna Get You Sucker and loved it so much. It made me love blaxploitation films like to this day, where I still love, like, even if you just spoof a blaxploitation film, I'm there. Black Dynamite, I was all up in that, dog. Just like, let's go.
All right. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars for me, and it's not because Star Trek isn't good, but just Star Wars is just the one for me.
Yeah.
And I know it's got me because it don't matter what they put out. I love it. It's like this. I don't even do the debates with people when they're like, oh, I didn't like this one. I'm like, I don't care. I love them all.
All right. Simpsons, Family Guy, or Rick and Morty?
I'm gonna go off the beaten path with this one and go American Dad, because that's the truth for me. American Dad to me is like if Family Guy got perfected.
Okay.
And I literally will watch American Dad every single night before I go to bed. That's not a joke. Like, I put it on Hulu, hit play wherever I stop, and whenever I get to the end, we restarting that bad boy from episode 1 because I love it that much.
All right. Walking Dead or Game of Thrones?
I'm gonna go Game of Thrones, but it's very close. It's very close to me. I still think Walking Dead is, nah, fuck it. I'm going Walking Dead because Walking Dead is the greatest depiction of humanity we've ever had on TV, and way too many people do not understand that that's what that show is actually about. They think it's about them zombies or about your favorite characters making it to the end. It's not about any of that shit. It's just like people will always mess something up. And that is exactly what happens every episode of Walking Dead. Someone makes a person decision. And if you can look around at the world at all of this and not relate to the Walking Dead, I don't know what we living in 2 different universes, dog. Cause that show gets, I feel like that show gets retroactively better because of how bad people have turned out to be in real life. Where I'm like, you know what? Y'all would hide a zombie bag. I feel like when I saw it on 10 years ago, I said, now who the hell would do some dumb stuff like that? You ain't gonna hide no zombie bite. You got to tell your people so they don't. Nope. I'm living them buns. I feel like a bunch of people in this country right now would be like, yeah, I'm cool.
Sadly, I got to agree with you. All right. Sports, NFL, MLB, NHL, UFC, NBA, or Premier League?
NBA, not close. That's my number one love. Grew up on it.
Yeah.
And I don't give a damn what they say about the threes, the ratings, I'm gonna be there. Y'all got some people playing basketball. I'm gonna be watching.
All right. Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Volkswagen Beetle?
Oh man. You know what? Let's go with Ferrari on this one. I think. Yeah, let's go with Ferrari on this one. Not that I would ever drive any of those. I don't think I can fit in those cars. You gotta be like 5'2". First, I still remember the first time I saw like a actual sports car in real life. I'm like, how the hell you get in there?
Gotta lie down.
Yeah. Like I know Shaq gotta be feeling, he must have felt terrible first time he went to the dealership with all that money.
All right, last question. Blonde, brunette, or redhead?
I'm gonna say 4C curls. I don't I feel like those might all 3 be white women's. So I feel I'm gonna go with the 4C curls on them. We keeping the extra black over here. Honestly, who has the biggest butt of the bread? You know, it's probably that's honest. I'm a very simple man. I'm not trying to be too complicated here. It's probably it could be any of the hairs. It's the butt.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we all know what my Instagram feed is. Come on. I'm not following
all right.
hair. I'm not following hair color on Instagram. You know what I mean?
All right. I think that's a good place to end it end here. Rod, tell everyone again where they can find the Black Guy Who Tips and where they can find all your podcasts.
Yo, just search the Black Guy Who Tips. It'll come up. And everywhere you listen to podcasts is where it's at. Right now we're on iHeartRadio. So if you want to listen on their app, that's even better for us. But yeah, check us out. The website is theblackouttips.com. On Twitter and Blue Sky, I'm Rodimus Prime, so you can find me that way. Yeah, man, thank you. I have two things coming up that are live events. The first one is something called the Basketball Jones with Bomani Jones. You can Google that and get tickets for it. It's in Raleigh at the end of January. Going to be a very fun time if you're into sports. And then we have our live show, the Blackout Tips live at the end of February 28th, coming up next year too. And you can Google the Blackout Tips, Blumenthal Performing Arts, or the Blackout Tips live. It'll come up in Google both ways. And yeah, we appreciate y'all. And thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Like this was a treat for me because yeah, I've been listening to you for the last year or so. I mean, I've heard you on MTR Network and other places. I listened to all of Drapetomaniacs last year and I was I heard your interview with Michael Harriot. So I was, that hooked me on getting on the Black Guy Tips. I was mad with myself that I hadn't started listening earlier. So,
Nah, man, thank you. I was honestly a little nervous that I was gonna come on here and not know enough about Transformers, and we would, and you just be like, damn, this dude don't even really read comic books. He don't know nothing. But I'm just glad we had a good time, man. This was very fun.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and for everyone who's watching, if you don't know what Transmissions is, this is a Transmissions podcast. We do 2 podcasts every week. We do a toy-focused podcast and a comics and media-focused Transformers podcast. So every Wednesday and Friday. So you can check us out at transmissionspodcast.com. We're also on YouTube as well. We're all over social media too, although don't do that much social media these days, but it's if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us there. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and if you want to check us out, you can go there, and definitely check out Rod and Karen on the Black Guy Who Tips, and check out their show is awesome. They do like 5-6 shows a week.
For everybody, the free ones we do like about between 3 and 5, and then for our premium folks, we normally do extra 2 to 3 shows a week for them. Yeah. So working, bro. I'm just glad I was able to find some time to be able to be here.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transmissions. If you'd like to join the conversation, travel to our Discord channel at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. Want some cool Transmission swag? Feast your eyes on our Transmissions gear at transmissionspodcast.com/shop. If you'd like to support our podcast, go to transmissionspodcast.com/support or tell your friends about our show. We'll see you next time.